Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here, once again, and I am here today to review the Goosebumps book that I was supposed to review last time, which is Beware the Snowman. Or I guess you should say it like, Beware the Snowman. And I am so glad that I decided to do this because whenever you read a good Goosebumps book, it always holds you off until next time. But whenever you read a bad one, it always leaves a really bad taste in your mouth, ugh. So after reading Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, I had a ugh feeling. I thought that it was disappointing after all those years of looking at that cool cover of the snowman in Pasadena, that then I go and read the book and it's nothing that I ever expected for a Goosebumps book. And I thought it would be really cool to just keep on reviewing these books, I guess maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, instead of just waiting a random amount of time. So I'm going to try to do that, but it'll still just be if I want to or not. It's not going to be a set schedule. Anyways, this book, it was pretty good. Okay, and I'm glad that I get to say that because it seems with a lot of these Goosebumps books, they have problems or they're just okay. This one is actually pretty damn good. It is more than just okay. It's a book that it started off, and I'll admit it, I'll be the first one to admit it. When I listen to a Goosebumps book on YouTube, I do different things. You know, when I was listening to the earlier books that I reviewed, even the good ones, I would be playing Dead Island, the video game, on my PS4, or I'd be playing this one Japanese game. I can't remember what it was called. It was Judgment or something. I can't remember. It was a spin-off of the Yakuza series. And I'd just be trying to do different things to keep myself interested in what I was listening to, because listening to these books is kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, it's not just because of the mediocre material sometimes, it's more so because I'm listening to these things on YouTube, where there's this guy who plugged in all the Goosebumps books in a robot voice text-to-speech thing, and it just makes it sound so monotone. And some people, they can't even listen to it. Safi, I put it on for her a little bit for one of these books, and she was I'm not going to listen to that. And it's that's what I listen to, and it's you just have to deal with it. And then I also listen to my friend's YouTube channel when he does Goosebumps read-alongs. But with those, I don't know, for some reason, I think that I might do that more when I go back and reread these books, so that I can enjoy them more on my own rather than, doing them to review. And, I want to get it done as quickly as possible without dragging it on. Because whenever I read a book and I just drag it on, I'm probably not going to finish it. And I know you're wondering, why am I just talking about, reading and all this type of, not about the book in general? Well, it's because I want to make a point about this book in that it really got me interested. And halfway through the book, I switched off what I was doing, and I sat here for the last hour, and I just paid attention to nothing but the book. And I was really, really interested in the book, and I thought, I really want to know what happens It's very, very good. It's very, very, it's engaging. And that is really, really good. So this book already has a leg up on even classic Goosebumps books because it makes you want to pay attention. And it makes you want to know what happens instead of just being like, oh, okay, I have to get this book done because it's for the channel. No, it's like I'm reading this because I want to read it and because it's interesting and it's, stuff is happening. And in fact, I'm looking at where I should rank the book, and I think I'm going to go ahead and move it up a peg. And you'll understand later what I mean. So this book, it's all about this girl named Jacqueline. I can't remember what they said she looks like. And the reason why I say that is because, I don't know, like, it's hard to picture what type of character she was because she really didn't have much character to her. And so that was one thing. I wasn't really paying attention as much in the first part of the book, and so maybe I missed the description. It really was kind of like setting up and kind of boring at first. And it's all about this girl and her Aunt Greta, and you guys know when you hear that name who you think of. You think of that annoying attention whore on Twitter. I'm not going to say anything more about that. And this girl and her aunt, they moved to this village called Sharpia, or Sharpie. I'm just gonna call it the Shart Village, okay? They moved to the Shart Village, and you might as well call it the Shart Village because it really is just like one giant shart. Like, they go there. There's barely any description of the town. It's like a snowy town near the Arctic Circle, and there's nothing to do. They don't even have a Blockbuster or anything. They don't even have hookers. They don't even have, like, mafiosos or, I don't know, just like anything. It's just like this town that nobody in the world cares about, apparently, because the whole town is practically held hostage. It's really bad. Like, when I get into the mythology of what went on in the Shart town, you guys are going to understand why I'm joking so much. So they moved there for some reason, and the girl, her parents died, or the dad disappeared, and the mom died young, or when the girl was young. And so this is one of the few Goosebumps books where there is not a mom that is, like, alive. Like, mostly in these Goosebumps books, there's always a mom, even if she's not around. Like, if she's an ex-wife or something, she's still around. But in this book, she's fucking dead. She's fucking deader than a fucking doornail. So they're in the town. There's nothing to do, and it snows all the time. And another bad thing is that the main girl is having these really bad dreams, and at nighttime she hears, like, whispering, and there's this, like, poem that the whispering keeps on reciting, and then at a later time there's, like, a puddle of water in her bedroom, and so she thinks that, like, something or someone went into her bedroom because there's no leaking in the ceiling. And then she meets these friends. I guess you could call them friends. They're Rolanda and Eli. And they're kind of a couple of shitheads because they tell her these scary stories to tell in the dark. And to be fair, no one else in the town, I guess, will talk about the Snowman. Like, there's a lot of questions to ask after reading this book. It's a very implausible story. And in fact, I'm kind of... it's funny because as I do this review, I'm like moving this book around and I'm like, okay, going, okay, let's move it down a peg again, actually. Let's put it back there. Maybe it'll move down again. I hope not. We'll see. Or maybe it'll move up. The kids, they tell her that years ago, these two sorcerers lived in town, and it's like, this is another implausible thing that, like, just people, they randomly, like, it seems like in the Goosebumps universe, there's so many sorcerers, and people just openly talk about them. And in real life, you don't just walk up to a random person in real life and find out about sorcerers and stuff. Like, in real life, people keep it secret, and you have to, like, dig deep to find out, like, oh shit, like, oh, that person was a secret sorcerer or something. Like, I don't know. They said these two sorcerers created a monstrous snowman, and the snowman was very scary, and he was evil, and it was actually a pretty cool story where they chased this evil snowman to the top of this mountain, and he's inside, he's inside of an ice cave, and he's just stuck inside the ice cave because they chased him away, and he only comes out at night so that he can scare people, and I guess that's not really made clear. So, and then also the town, everyone there, they have to build snowmen and put them in their front yard to leave them alone, I guess. It's kind of vague. It's not really specific of, like, why these snowmen... I mean, they said it was to honor him, and that then he would be happy because they're honoring him, but I don't know what that means. Because, like, why would a monstrous snowman care about random people in a village honoring him? Like... what does he have to gain from any of this? What does he want? What does he desire? Does he need to eat to survive? Does he need to eat people? Who knows? But it is a great story because it's so much better than in The Abominable Snowman, where we don't get anything at all except for, oh yeah, that one time there was a dog and the monster killed the dog off screen, and then that other time the monster killed these two hikers off screen. Like, that's such a weaker story, and it's such a lamer version of this, like, same type of story where, if you want to have, like, an expositional mythological story, you want to build a good big story instead of just, like, these couple little ramblings like in the Abominable one. So I like that backstory. I like the fact that it sounded pretty convincing, like it was the real history of this town. But you just think about, like, how does the world not know about this? Like, you're telling me there's no one who moved away from there and then talked about this evil snowman taking the town hostage? And you're talking about, like, why haven't news reporters gone up there? Why hasn't there been a Netflix documentary about it? Like, it's just really bizarre how, nobody really bothers to do anything about this. Like, these grown adults in this town, the shark town, they just accept that there's this evil snowman and that he's gonna keep them hostage forever. I don't know. Like, it's so bizarre. It's like, what are they doing? Like, it's like, it's mind-boggling, really. But it's not bothersome. I'm just criticizing in terms of, if I had to poke holes in the story, those would be the holes that I would poke, even though I still found it entertaining. I'm just... And then at nighttime, the snowman starts to howl, and he starts to, like... the snowman is pretty intimidating. He is pretty scary, because even though he didn't kill these characters off screen, like the other snowman, or the monster, whatever, it's like he doesn't have to do that to be intimidating. Everyone knows where he is, and how he comes out every night and screams at the top of his lungs. They know that, like, he's just this force to be reckoned with, and that they just want to leave him alone, that he has a hold over this entire town. It's very, very... I don't know, it seems like he was a pretty damn good villain, pretty intimidating, and yeah, they really built him up as a villain. Then, a little more than halfway through the book is where I really started to pay attention, because the main girl, Jacqueline, I gotta give her credit. Like, in all these other Goosebumps books, the characters can't do jack shit by themselves. They always gotta have their brother or their sister with them. They gotta have their friend that's put them in the friend zone. It's like they can't do anything by themselves. In this book, Jacqueline, she is one of the characters in the series where she goes off on her own, and she's like, I want to climb the mountain and see the snowman. Because I guess she just wants to see what's going on with it or something. Like, it's really not made clear why she would want to screw around with the snowman. And of course, there's also this hermit, old man type of character named Comrade, and he has a scary dog named Wolfbane or something. And he lives on the snowy mountain, and he kind of guards the mountain so that people don't go up there, which just begs you to wonder of, like, why doesn't Comrade really do anything about the snowman? Like, Comrade, he has to knowingly let the snowman come down every night, because otherwise, why wouldn't Comrade sleep all day and then just guard the mountain all night? If people are stupid enough to go up on the mountain, then that's their problem. But if the snowman comes down to attack people, then, that's everyone's problem. So, I really don't think that Comrade is such a great character at all. So she sneaks past him, too, and she goes up there, and this is when I really got interested, though, because it was very descriptive, and it was a great contrast to the abominable shitstorm of Pasadena, where it just wasn't very descriptive, and it was kind of vague and boring. This was a lot more wintry, a lot more horror-y, and that's another thing. This really felt like a Goosebumps book. It didn't just feel like an adventure book like that other one did. So, it really seems like maybe R.L. Stine thought that the other one wasn't very good too, and maybe he wanted to do this as kind of like a do-over or a redo of sorts. So she gets to the top of the mountain, and there is a jaw-dropping twist where the snowman reveals he is Jacqueline's father. It is like the most bizarre thing. Out of nowhere, the snowman sees Jacqueline, and he's like, "Jacqueline, I am your father. I am really your father. It undoes all the mythology of like some sort of a snow monster that sorcerers came up with and chased up the mountain, which I thought was kind of unfortunate because I liked the idea of at least the town chasing the monster into a cave so that he stays up there in the cave. Like, I thought that was a pretty good idea. I just had a couple of questions around it. But this twist, it was so shocking. I was like, wow. Like, I had never expected that twist at all. I was very taken off guard. And it is pretty funny, though. The snowman, he's got a tree branch arms, and he's like raising up his tree branch arms at his supposed daughter. So apparently, the story is that his wife was evil as hell, and she imprisoned him inside of a snowman body, and then he was just up there this whole time, and the spell wears off after 10 years, so that's why the aunt wanted to move back with the daughter, and it also explains why the dad disappeared. And I thought, wow, this is actually a really, really good story. I was glued to the video. I completely stopped doing everything else that I was doing and just paid attention to this book. And like just completely, I wanted to know what happened next. And Aunt Greta came back so that she could renew the spell. Which is another interesting thing is that I was suspicious of Aunt Greta, and there was this one part where R.L. Stine emphasized that she had a long black coat, like a witch, and apparently she also did the whispering thing, and she did the puddle to scare her daughter, whatever. But then, they have this fantastic showdown. It's so unlike the past couple of Goosebumps books that I've read. It feels a lot more like the earlier Goosebumps books where shit hit the fan with these scary situations. And Jacqueline, she's got to fight with the aunt in order to get this book of poems. And then if she reads the whole poem about the snowman, he will actually turn human. And it is a pretty intense showdown for the short time that it happened. And she gets the page, and then the page gets torn up, and then she actually memorized the poem. And it was so well written, it was so well thought out, and it was such a good it was such a good like final standoff between hero and villain in comparison to other Goosebumps stories. But then they really undercut it, and I'm gonna go back again. They really undercut it, and they made it to where, oh no, the snowman was never her father. The snowman was a monster, and it's this monster that looks like a dragon. It's got like red scaly skin, and it's got a waggly tongue and jagged teeth, and to be fair, it is a savage monster. Jacqueline was like, what, don't I get a reward for helping you break free? And then he picks up Jacqueline and her aunt, and he's dangling them off the side of the mountain, and he's going to drop them down to their deaths. But then I felt like the most convenient of convenient twists happened, where the real snowmen came. And you had all these snowmen that are like an army of snowmen that are the ones from the town that all the people built and put in their yards. they march up the mountain, which I thought was really cool, a really great image, and they imprison the monster inside the cave wall. I thought that this was kind of fucking awesome, but it was a little questionable at the same time, because I thought, oh, is there going to be a twist where maybe one of those snowmen was Jacqueline's father? You know, I just thought as soon as they undid that twist where the snowman was her father, it was kind of a shame, because that story seemed so perfect, and it seemed like such a well-written explanation that now that they undid that, it was like, okay, what's the deal? Well, it turns out that the weakest character in the whole book, Conrad, it turns out that he is the real father. That was a very weak twist, in my opinion. You know, he doesn't really give a valid reason of why he was missing that whole time, of why he just stayed in this town. He never really gave a reason as to why they created this monster. He never gives a reason to why he never talked to his daughter once she arrived in the town. Because, like, from what I remember, I can't really remember because I didn't really pay attention to the first half of the book. But from what I remember, like, they were, like, on his land, and he got mad at them and threatened them with his dog. So he's, like, threatening his own daughter. I didn't understand. So, and then why didn't the aunt tell her, too? Like, Aunt Greta said that they moved back there because they were hoping the dad was still there. But why wouldn't she tell her that? That was a stupid twist. Okay? That was definitely the weakest part of the book. Like, I could have done with the monster being just a monster instead of being her father inside a snowman, because you think about the logistics of putting a man inside of a snowman's body for, let's see, 12 years, I guess, 10 years. Well, then you think about, how does the snowman go to the bathroom? How does he eat meals? How does he do other things I'm not going to discuss on camera? You know, how does he not get hypothermia? It's just kind of like, I guess that would have been like a gaping plot hole. But then again, it was magic, so you can kind of excuse that. But what you can't excuse is the plot holes of this real father, Conrad, and how he was just in this shart town for 1,000,000 years, and he never made any attempt. He could have written his daughter a letter or two. He could have called her on the phone and explained the story. Like, it's just so dumb. And then why didn't he just sick the snowmen on the monster the whole time? Because then there's this really confusing thing where they say that the monster's dead now. And you think, wait a second, how could the monster be dead when it survived all these years being stuck inside of a snowman's body in the ice-cold weather? Like, how would putting him in an ice wall be any different than just him being inside of a snowman? It's just kind of ridiculous. And there's other things about that too, like, how does the monster go to the bathroom? Like, how did his body, what did he look like inside of the snowman? Like, you think about, if it was a person, it would be much more understandable because they walk on 2 feet and they stand up straight like human beings do. But when you think about this monster, he walks around, I believe, on all fours. So basically, they're kind of saying that magic trumps, like, evolution, and they're saying that, like, this monster who walked on 4 legs, that because he's inside of a snowman, he would just start walking around normally. And then you think about, how could he really walk around normally unless there were like 2 feet on the ground and 2 up next to him in the air? You know, it just... And then what does he eat? You know, what did the monster eat all these years? That's never explained. So, yeah, there were some plot holes for sure. And then the snowmen are still alive at the end, and there's like a little... You know what? I will applaud R.L. Stine for the twist at the end, because after he did all these twists, like it was a twist fucking donut, he's like, okay, enough with these twists. I'm just going to have like a normal-ish twist ending. And the monster... I mean, the snowmen, they, one of them asks... can we go down now? It's really cold up here. And that's the end of the story. I kind of like that, you know, instead of having some stupid twist like in The Blob That Ate Everyone, where the whole book was actually a story written by a real blob. You know, that was really dumb. So I much prefer this, where it was a more like... simpler. It was a simpler ending. It was a simpler twist, and it was just a better twist than something goofy and outlandish like that. So overall, I really liked the book despite its flaws. I really liked how in the second half it was a non-stop thrill ride until the very end. And I really enjoyed the second half, and I really felt like it was one of the better Goosebumps books of the series. Or I guess I should just say one of the better Goosebumps books. And the reason why is because I felt like this book combined a couple of better books and combined like elements from them without it being too much like he's just copying his own work. Excuse me. And what I mean by that is there are elements in the book that feel like Stay Out of the Basement. The thing where they're wondering, oh, who's the real dad? Who's the father? Who's the real father? Is it that one guy or the other guy? Like, one of them is a plant. The other one is just human. So that's Stay Out of the Basement for sure. And then making Aunt Greta the villain, that was also kind of Stay Out of the Basement, since she lived with them the whole time. That's one thing that I'll say, though. Really, the best character in this book is the Snowman, who turns out to be a monster. Like, Aunt Greta, she's not a very good character. Jacqueline, she's okay. Rolanda and Eli, they're trash. And then, who's the other one? Oh yeah, Comrade. Comrade is one of the worst characters of the Goosebumps series. He is almost worse than the dad from the last book, who threw like diva temper tantrums at his own children. That guy was that guy was pretty insane. The other book that this felt like was the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, or the Scarecrow's Walk at Midnight, with the thing where the snowman comes out at nighttime and he comes down from this tall mountain and he terrorizes the village. You know, that could have been a really, really good story. Like the whole book up until they reveal that it's a monster, it was a pretty good story. It could have been a little bit better, and so it was up until the snowman became just a regular monster. I was ready to give this book a B plus, or possibly an A minus. It was that good. But then it became just a dragon monster, so that knocked it down a peg. And then it became that Conrad was the father. And I'm moving it down now. So it turned into just a C plus. And props to the book for at least being mostly really good until those two things at the end. But once you know these things at the end, it's going to make for an awkward rereading experience. The explanation of the Snowman being a dragon monster is a stupid explanation, and it doesn't explain a lot of things. So it would have been a lot better if it was just the dad. So I give this book a C plus. It knocked down an entire letter grade because of those stupid twists. And it is just one peg higher than The Barking Ghost. Which actually, no, I'm not going to put Barking Ghost above it. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of the story of the Snowman in Shart Town, and then please subscribe if you'd like to see me review all the rest of the Goosebumps books, honestly. Oh yeah, and there was nothing in this book that should have been cut out, too, or edited. Like that whole thing where Shitlastic is supposedly like editing the books for sensitivity, which is just the most fucking retarded thing I've ever heard. There's nothing in this book that's even like offensive or anything, like nothing, unless you're, I don't know, like there's literally nothing in this book. Maybe the monsters would be offended by the descriptions of the monster at the end. I don't know, like it's really weird. So yeah, that's just another book where it's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this book at all. There's nothing in the book that is offensive or anything. Like, it's just F off with that shit. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.